Megazord weapons, from the humble power sword all the way up to whatever the shark, don't call it a swordfish blade was. But 19 seasons back and 11 seasons deep, Power Rangers were mixing it up for the second year in a row, this time with power spheres. What an absolute live wire of a Zord line gimmick this was. I've got as many as I could get, and I'm going to talk about them all, who used them, what they did, which ones combined, and which ones you need to look to Japan to get your hands on. As ever with a retro review, let's start with the toy history. The franchise as a whole was experimenting to try and find a way to sell more toys. Gingaman/Lost Galaxy and Go-Go 5/Lightspeed Rescue gave them a large array of releases to sell. Gingaman was sort of a baseline as nothing combined or connected. Go-Go 5 was what could be if an interconnected system encouraged you gently to buy another but didn't force it. Time Ranger/Time Force tried a new strategy of fewer, more smartly designed and technologically advanced toys, but that were more expensive. The idea being, what if we gave them more to do with less stuff? Guess it didn't work out though, as sales were low for Time Ranger, and Gal Ranger, our Wild Force, gave them another avenue. What if they just kept selling multiple Zords that could generally combine with each other? That concept sold like hotcakes and kind of steered the direction of the franchise for the next 2 decades. But they would have been too deep in the design and development of Hurricaneger to react to that success in time for the next year's Sentai. They tried so much with Hurricaneger, it comes across a bit like a midlife crisis, almost driven by a genuine interest in what did the 2000s kid even want anymore? Was it combining Megazords, a more posable non-combining Megazord? Was it a giant motorized Ultra Zord like from the old days? Or was it lots of little, almost impulse purchases that weren't true Ranger Zords in that traditional sense, but filled out the lineup in a unique way using many designs that couldn't even be done as a regular Zord? The Karakuri balls gave them their unique spin. A lot of the Gal Ranger mecha came in 1 Zord boxes. Now that size of box was being utilised for selling 2 mini Zords at a time. It's not unusual, especially in more modern years of Sentai, to take inspiration from whatever the newest cultural obsession is. I think this is their take on Pokemon/Digimon, kind of down to the Pokeballs. They're like kind of surprise egg toys. The word Karakuri can be translated as automation or hidden mechanism, trick as in magic, to produce a sort of sense of wonder. It basically means gimmick, mechanism, machinery, trick, contrivance, or device. The key point here is some mechanical trickery. Our first gimmick, and by modern standards a conservative total of 12 to collect, sort of 13 if you got the stamp or 14 if you included the cloak. I think most interesting about it is that Bandai America decided not to bother with the Power Spheres gimmick. They'd basically done this with anything out of the norm from previous years. The Time Jet, and then Wild Force's other Zords that in Japan were sold separately that just never quite made it to America. Several of them were still included in Ninja Storm releases, particularly with the Lightning Megazords, a clever way to create demand for those in a familiar Zord category, one that retailers could understand. In the show, the power spheres were activated by these power discs. Dropped into a slot machine in their Zord cockpits, the ball would materialize either inside the Megazord's chest cavity, or in the case of Samurai Star, in front of it. The show itself played it pretty loose with the mythology of the spheres. Sometimes a ranger would need to go on a quest to retrieve them, and other times Cam would just build it and deliver them. Not a lot of context there. And what's inside the sphere? Well, like a Gashapon capsule from Japan, it was a bit of a surprise. At base level, it's a small Zord that becomes a weapon. Sometimes it's only a piece of a small Zord that needs combining with 1 or 2 more spheres. We've seen those in the Thunder and Samurai Star Megazord reviews already. Sometimes the individual weapons can even be combined into an even bigger weapon. We'll get onto those shortly. So these little discs that represented each of the power spheres were used by the Rangers in the show and actually functioned with the Morphers as well. Bandai America were less interested in including these, so if you wanted a full set you would have had to have gotten the Bandai Japan releases. But yeah, I guess they were a bit whatever. Moving on to the design. So I love how direct the naming of these Power Sphere Zords are. Often, as the name suggests, they're exactly what they say on the tin. Makes it pretty simple for the Power Rangers audience, hey? Let's start with Power Sphere 01. Serpent Sword. So the dragon themed sword, initially used by the Storm but sometimes by Thunder Megazord, effectively the power sword of the season. Power Sphere number 2, Ram Hammer. A surprisingly violent finisher for Power Rangers, this one finished off adversaries by hammering the enemy and crushing them into the ground. Great little design though, love its opening mouth. Power Sphere number 3, Turtle Mace. So don't let the cuteness of this one fool you. This spiked mace on a chain is one tough and rough tool, and I like that it folds out into a proper turtle. Power Sphere 04, Spin Blade. We've seen this with Thunder Megazord, it's a flower axe pinwheel thing. Power Sphere 05, Lion Laser. Don't get confused with Dustin Zord, this is another tiny lion. Its spinning mane fires as a weapon. Power Sphere 06, Squid Drill. It's the first non-held weapon, Squid Drill, attached to Storm Megazord's knee, and according to Power Rangers fandom site, it was only seen and named in the Ninja Storm video game. Power Spheres 07 and 08, Mini Zord. As we saw in the Thunder Megazord video, this is a small sentient humanoid ninja that serves to combine Storm and Thunder Megazords into Thunderstorm Megazord. Power Sphere 09, Ninja Scarf. So a shield or cloak. Between Mini Zord and this, we were on a bit of a hiatus from what up to that point had been animal and flower themes in these strange sphere numbers. Power Sphere 10, Bee Spinner. And now we add our first insect to the mix. Generated by Samurai Star Megazord, it reels back and flings to sting and destroy. Power Sphere 11, Sting Blaster. A horseshoe crab themed spear blaster used by the Thunder Megazord. It slashes once it even impales and launches a monster into the air. Power Sphere 12, Spider Catcher. A spider themed grappling hook used by Samurai Star. I guess it can do the Mortal Kombat get over here thing. Power Sphere 13, Super Stamp. No, not kidding, this one was the sphere itself. Destructive stamp imprinting on the monster. Apparently it was only used once. Power Sphere 14, Star Blazer. A red starfish affixes to the Storm Megazord's knee again and drives it home into the monster, I guess destroying it with its pointiness. Power Spheres 15, 16 and 17, Ninja Firebird. You know this one from the Samurai Star review. A Firebird, in Japan it was called the Condor, that enables the Storm, Thunder and Samurai Star Megazords to combine into the Hurricane Megazord. Did you notice all of them feature after the powers of the team? We have air, earth and water themes, plus one of them is a star, several of them are insects like the Thunder Rangers. The Power Spheres could feel a bit random if not done well, and I'm drawing a blank on the stamp to be honest, but overall they're a nice extension to this year's design theme and language. They fit. What are the differences from the originals? Well, unfortunately the Bandai America releases were not as good as the Bandai Japan releases, and they didn't even do them all in the first place. So what didn't we get? Well, number 9, the scarf, okay, 12, the spider, don't know why, 13, the stamp, and 14, the star, didn't make it over to the Ninja Storm toyline. There were also worse versions of others done for America. The Spin Blade, Squid Drill, the Lion Laser all had better versions over in Japan. Sometimes as simple differences as missing paint, but in the case of Lion Laser, a completely different model assembly with different materials, less paint of course, and missing clips that allow them to go in places such as on the Mammoth, and here to allow spinning using the lion head on the Storm Megazord. That I guess is the general theme between the Japan and America versions, lack of paint detail. The balls themselves got a slight health and safety change too. The ones with holes in are America's, the solid ones are Japan's. Aesthetically, it's the worst thing in the world, and often I forget that the holes are even there. But yeah, easy way for you to be able to tell when buying them secondhand where they came from to begin with. What's bad about them? Well, the aforementioned constraints of the American versions means they can't combine with either the Storm Megazord or the forthcoming Mammoth as effectively as their Japanese counterparts could. The reason for the latter is simply that, well, Bandai America weren't going to do the Mammoth anyway. we'll get onto that in the next video. The balls themselves take up a lot of space. Some of the shells pop apart randomly when you're not trying to separate them. It's a simple latch that holds them closed, and generally that mechanism is a good one for staying together. My turtle mace has practically imploded, and that's from Japan. And speaking of which, I hate how in the combination with the ram hammer, you have to take a piece out and just put it aside. It's so easy to lose. No wonder you got several of those in the box. Yeah, just bad design all around. The volume of them and relative scarcity of them means even I haven't been able to get the scarf or stamp. I haven't tried excessively hard like I did with the Spider and Star set. That was the set that I seemed to be waiting the longest for to become available. But yeah, as a collector, it's annoying that they're numbered because you have these random gaps in your numbering and it's not something that's easily solved. I think it is useful having some markings on the ball to remind you which one it's supposed to contain, especially when all of them are empty. But I would have rather they just used symbols to represent the Zords inside. Then it wouldn't have mattered as much if you didn't get them all. They could have used the Rangers symbols like Earth, Air, Water, Thunder, Samurai Star, for example. As we mentioned in the previous video, and see it even more so with the full range, many of the Zords are only actually usable by some of the megazords. The ones that can only clip onto the knees are interesting choices, and some of them can't even be held at all, like the Bee Stinger, ironically one of the only ones Samurai Star even uses. What's good about them though? Well, as an idea, it was different and unique for the franchise. While the idea would evolve more into the Wild Force style of just being additional Zords as artillery weapons, the mini Zord idea was a nice Japanese culture inspired gimmick that fit the Pokemon Digimon craze of the early 2000s, as well as the brash maximalism style of the Megazords themselves. And on the show it meant that you weren't seeing the same finisher all the time like we did with the original Mighty Morphin Power Sword, but they also weren't rendering the Megazord you had as useless. It was just utilising another weapon component that would surely be an easier upgrade. Obviously not always the case. I love the combos you can do with some of them as well. Ram Hammer and Turtle Mace join together to become what's called the Flail combo, where it bounces the mace on the ram horn spike bit and launches it at the monster. It looks great too, especially with the chain kind of dangling there. Lion Laser and Squid Drill become the Turbine combo, drilling turbine. It creates a tornado blast with bullets. You can use the lion head to spin it. It looks colossal. Power Spheres appeared in 32 of Ninja Storm's 38 episodes, so more often than not they were used in one way or another. The idea of turning what is traditionally handheld weapons into sentient mini-Zords is an interesting one. Their integration into the chest area of 2 of the 3 Megazords was smart, and while you can either take or leave most of them, ultimately it's another thing that makes Ninja Storm such a banger of a year. And we're still not done, but I promise we finally will be. There's one more video I've been leading up to, one more Zord that turns this season up to an 11, and not just because it's season 11. Mammoth, Revolver, Mammoth Zord, Ninja Storm Ultra Zord. Next time, let's go. Guys, what do you think of the power discs and spheres of Ninja Storm? Which one were you most disappointed not to get in America? Let me know. Until the next time, see you later.